our first testimonial will be, for this year will be led by Councilmember Rodriguez of the 7th District.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues and members of the public for joining us. Sadly, 2026 has commenced with no shortage of chaos, led at the hands of a federal administration that continues to assault and inflict harm on communities, not just here in Los Angeles, but across the country. Sadly, we just saw a woman lose her life, Renee Good, at the hands of ICE. This is now the 5th loss of life that has resulted from the assaults led by ICE agents across the country. But what's more infuriating is that aside from the assaults that have been levied towards those that are just either protesting or helping to document the actions that are taking place in communities across this country, we know the harm that is being inflicted on members of our community whose voices are being ignored, whose families are getting torn apart. This chaos continues to inflict such tremendous harm across America. You know, it was just at the end of the year that we brought in a number of individuals, including Memo Torres, to talk about all the cataloging of the incidents that have taken place just here in the Southern California region. But when I look at the footage of what occurred to Renee, a woman who had just dropped off her 6-year-old son at school, there's no way that it doesn't touch and affect every single one of us, but make no mistake. This is all intended to inflict fear and silence our communities, to be complicit and enable the assaults that are happening to immigrant communities across this country, and frankly, even citizens across this country. And we saw that happen with Renee Good. I wanted to take a moment to remind us all that while we don't have the direct authority to supersede what this president is doing and what's being enabled by federal leaders that have been elected to represent us, we do have the opportunity to document, track, and protect our residents and demand accountability for the actions that take place in this city. And I want to assure the public that the silence in the report backs that we have sought to ensure that there are actions that we can be taking to make the most to protect members of our communities, whether they are protesting or whether they are merely documenting what has transpired here on the assaults against members of our community. Gloves are off. It's happening now, and it's happening this year. So in honor of Renee Good, and sadly all of the other individuals that have been torn apart and affected directly by the actions of ICE, I just wanted to start this council meeting in recognition of what continues to happen across this country and, of course, here in our city. And to ensure that everyone recognizes that all Angelenos understand that, at least for myself, and speaking for myself, as a leader elected to represent, to be 1/15 of the legislative body of this city, I'm not here to suggest or pretend, nor should you be under any misunderstanding that their actions have slowed. They have not. Don't normalize the action. Don't turn away. Continue to be a voice for change. And I want to invite members of the public to continue, and I thank them for showing up, for being that voice and that advocacy. But we're going to have some elections coming up, and I think it's really important that everyone remember their civic engagement and what this country is supposed to stand for and what it represents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Rodriguez. It's an appropriate start to our work here in the council, given the gravity of what's happening in our country and in our community. Our next presentation will be brought to us by Councilmember Hernandez of the 1st District.
Thank you, Council President. We have a few guests with us here today. I'll give them a minute to join. I'll give them some time to join us. I'm going to do Joseph first. And I'll close it out. Okay, great. Thank you, Councilwoman Rodriguez, for your words in uplifting Renee Nicole Good. This week she was killed. She, Renee Nicole Good, was shot and killed by ICE. Her death deserves outrage, care, and justice. But if we only show up sometimes, then we're not actually committed to justice. We're committed to convenience. What happened to Keith Porter also deserves our attention, especially when it involves federal ICE agents who operate with almost no oversight and a long history of violence, followed by denial. This happened in our own backyard, and silence is not an option. To help name that truth and ground us, and to talk about Keith, I'm going to be inviting Cordell Armstrong, who is a family member of Keith Porter. Keith Porter was a father, a neighbor, and a beloved member of our community that is grieving and demanding answers. An off-duty ICE agent does not get to decide who lives and who dies, period. You can't be the judge and all the other parts of this carceral system. It takes courage for our families to show up in the middle of grief and demand truth. And I thank you for being here, and I'm so sorry for your loss. My deepest condolences. Please join me in welcoming Cordell Armstrong, speaking on behalf of Keith Porter and his family. Okay. I'll be inviting his mother to come and speak and share a few words. Thank you.
My son, Keith Porter, he did not deserve this. Keith Porter was a wonderful soul. His heart was big. He had a big heart. He loved so hard. He loved so deep. Anyone who came in contact with Keith loved him. He was a joy. He was a jokester. He was my baby. He was a father, a cousin, an uncle. And he always said, family over everything. It meant the most to him. My baby called me every morning to say, good morning, Mom, I love you. Every day before he went to work, just to say, Mom, I love you. How's your day? He loved his daughter. He loved me so much. I miss my child. He does not deserve this. His Home Depot family, I'm so grateful to them. He loved unconditionally. He never argued. He wasn't a gossip. He was the one that brought people together with love and unity. He was the type of person that there was no anger. He always brought joy into the room. He commanded the room, and he made you feel special. Everybody had a name, and it was from love, joy. He loved to cook. He'd come to your house. He would just ram your refrigerator and just cook a meal, and he just wanted happiness. He wanted everybody to just be filled with joy. He would say, I don't care, Mom, if I have $1 in my pocket, you would never know it because I'm a millionaire, because I'm going to walk just like that. I'm going to let everybody know I am that person. I'm going to put my clothes on, and I'm just going to love. I'm spiritual. I love God, and I love everybody, and there's a lot of people out there that love me, and I know it. So I just want you to know, please, justice for my baby. He does not deserve this, please. This person hurt my child, and he would never hurt anybody. He loved so hard. He rescued animals. He worked with disabled children. He helped raise kids in foster families. He was such a joy. His heart was so big. His heart was so big. He didn't deserve this. He was on his way back to say, Mommy, I love you, Happy New Year. He didn't even get to pop his champagne. He didn't get to say goodbye. I just want to touch my baby one last time, kiss his face and hold him. I don't have him. His life was snatched from us, Lord. Please, I just wish you could get justice for my child. Oh, please get justice for my baby.
Say his name! Keith Porter! Say his name! Keith Porter! Say his name! Keith Porter!
Thank you. My name is Attorney Jamal Tucson. I am the attorney on behalf of the family. Echoing what we heard from his mom, Keith is more than a headline. Keith is a human who loved, who gave love, and deserves justice and accountability. What does justice look like? Well, justice starts by releasing the name of the ICE officer. We don't know his name. Certainly, we know he was not acting under any sort of duty. This was not a trained law enforcement officer responding to a crime. LAPD was on the way, and what we're seeing with the killing of Keith is just a microcosm of what's going on across the country. What we're seeing in Minnesota, what we're seeing in all our communities with Black and brown and underserved communities are ICE officers wreaking havoc, committing crimes with little to no accountability. And today, we're asking for that accountability. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Williams. I'm with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. I'm also the executive director of Students Deserve, and I work directly with Keith's cousin, Renee Tyler, who was the first to let us know immediately when Keith was murdered that this happened. When we had a vigil on Sunday night in honor of Keith, when we went out there to have a vigil, his coworkers from Home Depot were already there. Right? He has worked at Home Depot for just about a year and has already had such a big impact on his coworkers that dozens of them showed up, even before activists or community organizers showed up to show their love, to show how deeply he had impacted them, right? This was a person, again, like his mother said, who was a father. If you looked at his Instagram, if you looked at his social media, so much of it was him loving on his child, him loving on his family and his community. And I also want to say that, yes, this is absolutely a symptom of what is happening from the national level on down with the unjust immigration enforcement that is harming immigrants and also many other folks in our communities. And it is also not separate from what is happening in this very city. We know that in this city, law enforcement shootings by LAPD have increased, 70% last year? And there has been very little of any accountability in any of those cases. The fact that Keith Porter's murderer was not arrested and made to give up his service weapon on that very night is unacceptable. Unacceptable. This man murdered somebody in cold blood who was celebrating New Year's Eve, who was waiting for his family to come join him in celebration, who was a beloved father and community member and worker. And this is something that absolutely City Council and this entire city must look at and say, this is unacceptable. It's not something that we can point fingers and say, this is only Donald Trump's fault, right? We have to look at ourselves and say, what city policies, what investments are we making with our budgets that is allowing these things to continue, not only from federal officers, but also from local law enforcement in our community. And we also know, right, that immigration is a Black issue, right? That the harms that are happening in our community are not only affecting folks who are coming from Central and South America. We know that the largest immigration enforcement in the history of the country operation right now is happening in Minnesota, targeting Black Somali immigrants. And we know that this system of white supremacy relies on anti-Blackness and the seizure of indigenous lands to enrich the capitalist class. So we are calling on you as a city council to do what is in your power to hold law enforcement accountable in this city, to use the power that you all have to set the budgets in this city, to hold the mayor accountable in this city, to say we must invest in accountability, We must invest in care and resources and supports for our community, and we must divest. We must move money away from law enforcement that is continuously harming our community repeatedly with impunity. Keith Porter's life matters. Keith Porter's life matters. Keith Porter's life matters. And he deserves accountability. His mom, Franciola, should not be here. She should not have to come here while she's grieving to say, please, please direct your officers to arrest the person who murdered my son. That shouldn't be her responsibility. It is you all. You all have power to say our city employees, LAPD, should be arresting any officers who are causing harm in our community. So we have got to stop pointing a finger only at Donald Trump and say, what is within our power? What is within the power of the city council here to move towards real justice for the family of Keith Porter and the tens of thousands of other families in our communities who are being constantly harmed by law enforcement actions, both federal law enforcement and our local law enforcement. So we will be here continuing to demand justice for Keith Porter and for all of the other folks who have been stolen by law enforcement, who have been kidnapped by law enforcement, who have been harmed by law enforcement, because there are many. Keith Porter's daughter is 9 years old. And a 20-year-old daughter. And they will live the rest of their lives without their father. There is nothing that anyone in this room can do to get justice for Keith Porter, because that would mean he would be here with his family. But what we can do is to move forward and get accountability for the folks that stole his life unjustly. He should not still be walking free. He should not still be anonymous. Everyone should know who this man is. Everyone should know what he looks like, what his name is. And he should be in jail. He should be facing charges. So we call on you all to use the power that you have as the city council of the second largest city in the country, as fascism is advancing around the country, as law enforcement terror is advancing around the country. What will you do? What will you do? Not in statements beforehand, not in letters or social media posts. What will you do with the power of the positions that you have to demand real justice and accountability and a different future and a different world for Keith Porter's family, for black families, for immigrant families all around our city? So we'll continue to fight for justice in the name of Keith Porter and for his family. And we'll continue to demand that you all in positions of power who have been elected by the people of this city do what you must do with the power and the positionality that you have to fight against the fascist regime that is advancing law enforcement harm and terror here and around the country. These are unprecedented times, and you all must take unprecedented measures to demand accountability, to demand transparency, and to do something different with the resources that we have at our disposal here. President Trump is defunding education, is defunding the very public services that our communities rely on, and has created the largest law enforcement entity in the history of this country. In the history of this country. So it is unacceptable that this council also voted to increase funding for law enforcement, for LAPD. These things are not disconnected. These are absolutely connected. So we stand here in deep solidarity with the family of Keith Porter, in solidarity with the family and community of Renee Good, with the folks who were shot yesterday in Portland, Oregon, and with all of the folks who have been shot and killed and stolen from their families by law enforcement here in Los Angeles, that you all as the city council have the power and a responsibility to take action around. Thank you.
I want to give my deepest condolences to Keith Porter's mom, Franciola Armstrong. Thank you so much for being here, for your words. Thank you, everybody, for being out here from the community. And thank you for everyone for your words. Thank you, Council President, for the time and for allowing us to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and condolences to your family.
Keith Porter!
Say his name! Keith Porter! Say his name! Keith Porter!
All right, thank you, council members Rodriguez and Hernandez, for starting us off with those important testimonials. And to Councilmember Rodriguez's point, the salience of these testimonials is getting worse, not better. We first started off with people being chased and jailed, and then it turned into someone being chased onto the freeway and killed, and now we are at people being shot in cold blood around the country. And so this council will continue to press the point and continue to shine a light on that issue.